Alrighty. Well, happy Saturday. Welcome, Aisha. We're so
Thank
happy to have you with
you.
us today. We're doing a financial aid prep workshop for teens. So, for all our youth who are thinking about going to college, this is going to be some good information for you all. Aisha, why don't you take it away?
Absolutely. So, once again, my name is Aisha Alexander. I am a college prep expert, and I am coming to you to give you information about financial aid. So, why are we talking about financial aid today? Financial aid is one of the first steps in you securing money to go to college. So, it's very important for us to review the different types of financial aid you will encounter as a senior in high school. So we're going to talk about three different topics today. We're going to talk about the FAFSA, we're going to talk about FEA, and we're also going to talk about the CSS profile in depth. So hope you enjoy. All right, so let's talk about what is financial aid. We have a variety of financial aid that you will be exposed to when you are applying for college. So financial aid helps students and their families pay for college. This aid covers your educational expenses, including tuition and fees, right? Room and board, books and supplies, and your transportation. There are several types of financial aid, and this includes grants and scholarships, work study, and loans. So we're going to talk about a little bit of this and so much more today. So what financial aid form should be completed? The very first form you should complete as a senior in high school is the FAFSA. That is the free application for federal student aid. Once again, I will say free because that's very important. You do not have to pay anything to complete this document. This is what you need to fill out to get any type of financial aid from the federal government to help you pay for college. Where do you find this form? You want to make sure you go to FAFSA.ed.gov. That is the proper website to go to access this form. The next type of financial aid is FEA. So this is state aid. This is aid that you will get from Pennsylvania if you are going to a school that is within Pennsylvania. You want to make sure that you definitely fill this out as well so that you're able to get federal government money from FAFSA, and you're able to get state money from FEA. The next form is the CSS. Not a lot of students know about this. The CSS profile is a form that some colleges will have you fill out in addition to the free application for federal student aid. So this is an additional form. Some colleges want additional financial information to give you money to go to that school, okay? Where do you find this CSS profile? You will go to cssprofile.collegeboard.org. All right, so we're going to jump in and do a fun icebreaker. I want this video to be as interactive as possible. So as I am stating this FAFSA fact or fiction, I want you to think about whether or not this is a fact or fiction statement. Okay. You must complete the FAFSA in order to receive A, financial aid from the federal government, B, financial aid from your state government, C, financial aid from many schools. Let's think. What do you think? This is fact or fiction? Chris, what do you think?
All right. So the FAFSA is the second F in FAFSA stands for federal, right? So would the answer be A?
Oh. So this is a fact. You have to, so I will go back. You must complete FAFSA in order to receive federal aid, state aid, and aid from your school. So let's back this up. So your college, the first form that your college is going to receive is the FAFSA. If they require additional information, then that's when we go into the CSS profile. And of course, you want to make sure you fill out your the FAFSA. So FAFSA is, you must complete FAFSA in order to receive your all of the aid that you need to go to college. Okay, so that was a fun fact. Let's move on. Let's see. All right. Government aid must be used to pay for full-time attendance at a four-year college, at four-year colleges, full-time attendance at community colleges, or full-time attendance at some tech and trade schools. Can you use FAFSA? Can you use FAFSA to attend any of these institutions?
I'm going to go ahead and say I think that's a fact.
And Chris, you are absolutely right.
Awesome.
You can use your FAFSA form, your financial aid form, to pay for a four-year college, a two-year college, as well as a trade school. So, and not a lot of people know that. You can actually absolutely use FAFSA to apply for trade school as well. All right, so let's go move forward. All right, the FAFSA includes financial aid information that the student will be attending, the student who will be attending the school. So this is information that is found on the FAFSA. So the student that will be attending the school. It will also include the student's biological or adoptive parents and the student's step parent with whom he or she lives. Will this information be included on your application?
I think this is also a fact.
You are killing it, Chris. Yes, this is a fact. This is a fact. And we'll go more in depth about your parents' portion of this application. But we do tend to get a lot of questions around, should my mom be included on this if I just live with her? What about my grandmother if I live with her? So we are going to go more in depth within this workshop to talk about who should be included if you are a dependent student, who should be included on your FAFSA application. All right, let's move on. All right, the FAFSA should be completed no earlier than October the 1st of the year before beginning college, by a deadline that varies from state to state, as early as possible to receive the maximum financial aid.
I don't know about this one. I feel like we're going to cover this in the workshop.
We are going to cover this in the workshop, but that's okay. So this is a fact. So I'm going to go back a little bit and we will cover this in the workshop too. But the FAFSA application opens October the 1st. Okay, so you cannot complete this application no earlier than October the 1st. So it just opened up about 2 weeks ago. The deadline, so the deadline meaning when you can, the last time you can submit your application, varies from state to state. So you want to make sure that you do go onto your FAFSA website to make sure you look up that information to see when is the deadline for me actually submitting this application. And you do want to apply as early as possible, because guess what? There are thousands of students just like you who are applying for this federal aid. So it's only a certain amount of money that is allotted for the year. So of course, the later you wait, the less money there is in the pot. So you want to make sure that you, of course, get your application in as soon as possible. All right, so let's go into our very first type of financial aid. This is the free application for federal student aid, or what's called FAFSA. And we just talked about that a little bit. We just had that fun icebreaker, right? So let's look into what is FAFSA and why you should complete this form.
If you're interested in financial aid for college or career school, you're going to need to fill out the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA. It takes most people about 30 minutes to complete online, and the best part, it's 100% free, and it provides you with access to grants, loans, and work-study funds from the federal government. And many colleges and states use FAFSA information to provide their own college or state financial aid. Before you fill out the FAFSA, it's a good idea to create your FSA ID, a username and password that lets you electronically sign your FAFSA and gives you access to various websites related to federal student aid. And here's an important tip. If your parent is providing information on your FAFSA, he or she will need his or her own FSA ID. Visit studentaid.gov/FSA ID for more information. Your FAFSA can be completed online at FAFSA.gov, and help is provided throughout the online application process. You will need to fill out the FAFSA each year you are in school because your financial situation may change. Plus, you may be able to automatically transfer your tax data from the IRS, making the application even quicker to fill out. Each state and college or career school sets its own deadline for the FAFSA, so it's best to get it done early. Since some of the funds are available on a first-come, first-served basis, you don't want to miss out. Now that you know about the FAFSA, you might be asking, well, how much money will I get? Your college or career school will do the math, and there's a simple formula that they use. First, the college takes your cost of attendance, which is the total amount it will cost you to go to that school. Your cost of attendance will vary from school to school. Then, the college subtracts your expected family contribution, or EFC. Your EFC is based on information provided in your FAFSA and will not change based on the school you attend. However, the EFC is not necessarily the amount of money you will have to pay. Basically, your cost of attendance minus your EFC equals your financial need. Your college uses your financial need and other information to determine how much financial aid you can receive. See? Pretty simple. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
All right, guys. So that was a wonderful video to sum up what we just talked about, right? We just talked about the fact that you will be getting aid from the federal government. You want to make sure that you fill it out as soon as possible. All right. And also they gave you some valuable websites to go to. So you can go to FAFSA.gov. You can go to studentaid.gov to get more information about the federal application for the free application for federal student aid. So let's talk about why you should fill out FAFSA. So this free application for federal student aid, it determines how much your family can afford to contribute to your college education, okay? It'll ask for information such as how much your parents make, okay? And what is going on within your household to determine how much aid the federal government will be able to give you, as well as state aid and some institutional aid. So you want to make sure you fill this out as accurately and as soon as possible. So who is eligible? Let me tell you right now, you do not have to be Beyonce, okay, in order to fill out this application, all right? Everyone can fill out this application as long as you are a US citizen or you are a documented legal resident. You can fill out this application. You must be a high school graduate, meaning that you are a senior going into your first year of college, right? Or you can have your GED in order to fill out this application. If you are a male and you are 18 through 25, you must be registered with the Selective Service. So this is something that male applicants have to do. Female applicants do not have to do this. If you are not, you can do this while completing the FAFSA application. So they will ask you to do this if you are a male. You must be enrolled in an eligible post-secondary program. What does that mean? You must be enrolled in college, university, whether 4-year, 2-year, or trade school. All right, let's go back into why we should fill this out again. Why should we fill out the FAFSA online? So Back in the day, honey, when I was filling out the FAFSA, we had to do it paper form. So things are of course, a lot different now. So the federal government has made it as easy as possible for you to fill out this application online. And the reason why is because your application is more likely to be accurate as opposed to you filling it out and mailing it in. That is still an option, but I would say do not do it. Make sure you fill this application out online because the computer actually prompts you if you make mistakes. So it helps you correct any mistakes you may make while filling this out. Of course, the process is a lot shorter if you fill it out online as opposed to filling out a paper application, right? You'll also get your student aid report, which we'll talk about a little bit later, your SAR, a lot faster as if you filled it out by hand. And you can access and update your information easily with a username and a password, okay? A special note, you have to reapply for FAFSA every single year, okay? Chris, I'll throw you a question. Why do you think that you have to apply for this financial aid every single year?
I'm wondering if it's because your situation could change every year. So your parents' income or your income could go up or down. And yeah, that could change what type of aid you're eligible for.
That's exactly it. That is it. So every single year, the federal government wants to know what is happening within your household. Does your income stay the same? Did it go up? Did it go down? And according to that information, they will administer, your college will administer a student aid report with the different types of aids that are available for you to attend college that year. So you definitely have to reapply every single year. So how do I sign my application? So we know you're going online, you're filling out your application, right? The computer is going to prompt you on different areas of the application. How do I sign it? So there is a handy device called the FAFSA ID. So this is an ID that you will have with you through the whole entire FAFSA process. From your freshman year all the way through your senior year in college, you will have this FAFSA ID. This FAFSA ID is what you will need in order for you to sign your application saying, hey, everything that I provided on this application is true, it's factual, and I gave you all the information I have possible, okay? If you are a dependent student, meaning that you depend on a guardian to take care of you, your parent/guardian will also have to get an FAFSA ID. Okay, I have included the link here. Of course, we talked about from the last video, studentaid.gov. That's going to be your best friend, studentaid.gov. Okay, you can go there in order to fill out your FAFSA ID. And as a matter of fact, I encourage you to do so. You can do this as soon as possible. You can do this early in order to secure your FAFSA ID. All right, so that's what you'll need to actually sign the application once it's completed. So remember I talked about how will your parents be involved? So I wanted to go more in depth about this topic because I understand that we live in a world where we may not live with mom or dad, or we may not live with just mom or just dad. You may have a mixed family. So if my parents are involved in helping me fill out the FAFSA application, who is considered my guardian? All right. So if you're a dependent student, which means that you're depending on a person to financially help you, right? They're going to have to fill out the FAFSA. And this is where we're going to get more in detail about who that may be in your household. So if you live with your biological parents, okay, they have to report that information, their financial information on the FAFSA form. If you were adopted, your adoptive parents have to same thing. They have to report that information on the FAFSA form. All right. If your parents are married, provide income from both parents if they are married. Okay, so let's get into some other scenarios. If your parents are divorced or separated, you want to report the income of the parent whom you live with the most for the year. So let's say, for example, you live with mom 70% of the time, and then you live with dad 30% of the time. You will be reporting your mother's income because that is who you live with the most. If your parents share joint custody equally of you, you have to report the income of the parent, once again, who provides the most financial support, okay? If you have a step parent, so let's say your father got remarried and you have a stepmom and you live with your father, your stepmother has to report that information on the FAFSA. So your dad as well as your stepmother, or vice versa. So the income of your step parent with whom you live is reported. And this is only if they're married. So if they're not married, you do not have to do that. You would just report your guardian's information. But if they are legally married, you have to report both parents' income. All right, let's move along. Income of legal guardians, foster parents, and other family members. For example, if you live with your grandparent, your aunt, your uncle, this information is not reported. This is not reported, okay? Another thing that I wanted to bring up, there may be some students that are fall in the independent category. So what does that mean? Independent means that you do not have a parent or a guardian taking care of you. If that is the case, you would be reporting your information on the FAFSA. And I wanted to just talk about this and also provide the link for you to find out more information about that. There are some rules in regards to whether or not you are considered a dependent or independent student. So definitely take the time to go to, once again, studentaid.ed.gov, and it will help you better understand whether or not you fall into the dependent or the independent category as a student. All right. Another note that I wanted to talk about is you do not want to skip on filling out this form because you think your parents make too much money, okay? You never know what type of aid you will get. So it doesn't matter if you feel like your parents make a lot of money, or we can even go, the opposite. If your parents make a little bit of money, you want to make sure you fill this out regardless so that you are able to get some type of aid to attend the college or university of your choice. All right, so what are some of the deadlines to filling out this application? So like we talked about in the FAFSA fact or fiction icebreaker, the opening of the application starts October the 1st. So you want to make sure that you fill out this application as soon as possible. So the opening of the application just happened, like 2 weeks ago? All right. It's easiest for you to fill this application out online with yourself and with your parents. Why? We talked about it, right? For accuracy, the computer will guide you to make sure you're filling it out correctly. And guess what? There's a handy tool, just like discussed in the video, where your parents' tax information can be uploaded directly from the IRS. So it's very little errors that can happen with completing this application as long as you do it online. Remember, every state has its own deadline for filing. So you want to make sure that you look it up according to whatever state you are in. Okay? Some funds are rewarded on a first come, first serve basis. So you do not want to miss out on getting this money. You want to go to FAFSA.ed.gov for more information about deadlines in your city, so you do not miss that deadline. All right, so how do I save my work online? So I did all this, right? I understand which parent or parents are going to provide their financial information. We filled out the application. We signed our application, right, with our FSA ID. Okay, we're in business. So how do I save my application? How do I save all this work? You can save your work as you go along by clicking the save button, which is wonderful. So you do not have to backtrack to refill out any information. Any incomplete applications will remain on the FAFSA website for 45 days or until the federal application deadline, whichever comes first. Okay. But of course, we know, since you are watching this video, that you are going to take the initiative to, number one, get your application in early, right? Number two, not miss any deadlines. And number three, make sure your application is accurate and on point. All right, so let's say you filled out this application and you're like, oh, I forgot to add this financial information, or oh, I think I misspelled my middle name on the application. You can actually go back and make corrections within the application, okay? So what you will want to do is you want to use the corrections on the web feature on the FAFSA application in order to correct any type of information. This may include your social security number. We've had that happen sometimes where a student may miss a digit. So you want to go back and make sure you correct that because it's important for them to know who you are. Also, financial information that was correct on the day of FAFSA was submitted. So basically, if you filled out the application and you submitted it, you can go back and make corrections as well. Okay. Let's say, for example, if you were married. Okay, so marital status that was correct on the day of FAFSA was submitted should not be updated. Okay, so let's say, for example, you're married, which it may be some of the case for you, some of the students on here. You cannot go back and unfortunately update that information. Okay, there's certain information, so it looks like your social security and other information, maybe your name, minor information like that can be updated. But as far as your marital status, if you already submitted it, you cannot go back and make corrections on that. Okay. So like I said, you want to make sure you go to studentaid.ed.gov in order to get more information about what you can correct and what you cannot correct. All right, so we're almost there. So you filled out the information, you submitted it, everything looks wonderful. How will your information be verified? Like, what happens to this information after you fill out this application? 1/3 of FAFSA applications are selected for verification. So that means that they will require additional information in order for you to get financial aid from your college. All right. So your application may be randomly selected, or it may be selected because there is a discrepancy in the information that you provided. So it's very important for you to keep copies of all of your financial documents, just in case more information is requested of you. Okay. So when do I speak to a financial aid administrator? So you may have questions as you're filling out this application, or even after you submit this application, you may have questions. So who do you turn to if you have questions? You can actually contact your college's financial aid office, and they would be able to help you answer any questions that you have and help you understand what is happening with your FAFSA application. Okay. You'll need to alert them. This is very important, especially if there are circumstances that have changed once you actually fill out this FAFSA application. And let's say, for example, when you filled it out, your mother had a job When you submitted it, maybe about a few months later, a month later or two, she doesn't have a job anymore. This is information that you need to call your college's financial aid office and tell them about the situation or the circumstance so they're able to adjust this accordingly on your FAFSA application. All right, or if there's any other special circumstances you feel like they may need to know. Very important. Make sure you establish a relationship with your financial aid office. Very important. You can also go to FAFSA for help. So what happens after you file your FAFSA application? So what happens is the federal government will send your information off to your college or university or trade school of your choice. You will receive a student aid report or a SAR, and it's going to summarize information that you provided on your application. This information includes the amount of your expected family contribution or your EFC. You should make sure that you review your student aid report to make sure that everything is accurate. This information is automatically provided to your colleges. So we talked about that. So federal government is going to review your information. They're going to give this information to your colleges or your trade schools or your universities. They use this information to determine how much financial aid you will receive if you're accepted into their school. Okay, so it's very important that you review your student aid report for accuracy. How do I report this information to my school? So we talked about this, right? We talked about the fact that you have this information is going to be going to your college, and your college is going to be reviewing this to give you your aid. You can report up to 10 colleges on your FAFSA application as you are filling it out. So it's very important for you to really think about what colleges you really want to attend, because you can only add 10 colleges, up to 10 colleges on your FAFSA application so that they are able to receive your student aid report. If you have an additional college, let's say, oh my goodness, I really want to do 11 or 12 colleges, you will have to delete a college or two before you can add on those additional colleges. So you want to make sure that you're doing your research and that you are selecting the appropriate colleges to get your student aid report. Okay. Is there anything else I should do? You want to make sure that you check your state and college financial aid requirements. Both may have additional paperwork to complete. For example, that CSS profile that we talked about. Some private colleges or universities will require you to fill this out, and we're going to go more into that in the next slide. Additionally, you don't want to miss out on state funding. So be sure once you fill out the FAFSA, right, you fill it out, it's accurate as possible. You use your FSA ID to sign it, you send it off, right? The federal government says, thank you very much. They review it, they give it to the college of your choice that you listed on your application. And then your college says, hey, this is how much money I can give you to go here for the year. Don't miss out on filling out that FAFSA application as well, because guess what? That's additional money that you can get for college. And like I said, we're going to talk about the FAFSA application as well as the CSS application today too. So you don't want to miss that. All right, so what is the CSS application? So the CSS is an online profile that collects additional information that is used by almost 400 colleges, universities, professional schools, and scholarship programs. This is additional information that your college may require for you to submit in order for you to get financial aid. Okay, so this is a quick video that talks about the difference between the FAFSA application.
You know, every time you shop on Amazon, you're helping someone make
the FAFSA application and your CSS profile right after this commercial.
Passive income.
There we go.
In this video, we're going to discuss the difference between the CSS financial aid profile and the FAFSA form. So both of these are financial aid forms, but there's some important differences. So first of all, the CSS profile is administered by the College Board, whereas the FAFSA is administered by the federal government of the United States. Now, the College Board is going to charge you some money to submit the CSS profile. You can get a waiver if your family has low income, but the FAFSA form is free for anybody to apply. The CSS profile is filed earlier, so you can file it as early as October 1st of the year before you plan to attend college, whereas the FAFSA form is filed later. It's filed January 1st of the year you plan to attend. Now, the CSS profile is not required by all schools. So some universities don't care whether you submit the CSS profile. Other universities are going to make it mandatory that you submit the CSS profile. Now, the FAFSA form, pretty much any school that you want to get federal financial aid, you have to fill out the FAFSA. Even if they want the CSS profile, they're also going to be wanting the FAFSA form as well. Now, the CSS profile and the FAFSA use different methodologies for determining how much financial aid the student should be eligible for. So the CSS profile uses what's called the institutional methodology, and it's going to be used to determine how much institutional aid that the college or university gives to the student. And so when we say institutional aid, what we're talking about is grants and scholarships that are given out by the college's own funds, right? The college has money that it can decide what to do with, and that's institutional aid. So it's going to look at the CSS profile and say, based on that, how much money do we think in need-based grants our college should give to this student? Now, the FAFSA form is going to use the federal methodology to calculate the expected family contribution, or EFC, for the student, which is going to be used to determine how much federal aid that the student is eligible for. Federal aid includes things like the Pell Grant and so forth. So if you're applying to a college that requires the CSS profile, you're also going to be submitting the FAFSA, and the FAFSA is going to be determining how much in Pell Grant funds and so forth. The CSS profile is going to be used by the college to determine how much in the college's own funds they decide to give you. Now, because they use different methodologies, I just want to give you a quick rundown on some of the differences. Generally speaking, the CSS is going to get at more types of assets and stuff like that. It's going to dig deeper financially and see how much you can give. Now, the CSS looks at both the custodial and the non-custodial parents' financial information. So that means that if your parents are divorced, for example, the CSS is going to say, hey, we want to see the financial information for the parent you live with, that's the custodial parent, but we also want to see the financial information for the parent you don't live with, that's the non-custodial parent. The FAFSA, however, just looks at information from the parent that you've been living with. So it's not looking at what about the non-custodial parent. The FAFSA doesn't even take that into consideration. This is important if your custodial parent makes a lot less money than the non-custodial parent. You can see if the non-custodial parent is very wealthy, then when you submit the CSS, that's going to kind of hurt your financial position in terms of getting institutional aid from the college. Now, the CSS also might factor in, they might assume when you submit the CSS, the college might assume that you're going to have some summer earnings. And they say, you know what, we think you should be able to make at least $2,000 or $3,000 each summer. We're going to factor that in deciding how much institutional aid we give you. The FAFSA does not assume that the student is going to be working in the summer. It doesn't make any assumptions about that. CSS, when it's looking at assets and different things in the financial position of you and your parents, it's going to take into consideration if you have any home equity, right? So if your parents have built up some home equity, considerable amount of home equity, that's going to make you less likely to be able to get institutional aid, because the college might think that you can get some financing from that. You could take, maybe your parents could take out a home equity loan or something like that. They see this equity as part of your family's financial position. So if they have a lot of home equity, that's a bad thing for you in terms of getting institutional aid. The FAFSA, however, does not look at home equity at all. It doesn't even take that into consideration. Now, the FAFSA has a thing called a simplified needs test. I'll make another video on that. We'll talk, but basically people with certain income, below certain income thresholds, certain qualifications, it won't even look at their assets. It won't even look at the parents' assets if they meet certain qualifications for the simplified needs test. However, the CSS does not have a simplified needs test. It is going to look at all of the assets regardless. They don't have that test to kind of be able to bypass against assets. The CSS is also going to look at all and any farm equity. However, the FAFSA will omit some farm equity if there's a couple things going on. So if the family lives on the farm and they materially participate in the operation of the farm, then the FAFSA will not be looking at the farm equity. They won't be taking that in consideration when deciding how much the family's expected family contribution is. Now, business equity. So if let's say one of your parents owns a business, the CSS is going to look at all business equity. They're going to take that all into consideration. The FAFSA, again, is going to be more lenient. It's not going to look at business equity if it's a family-owned business, the family owns more than 50% of the business, and the business has 100 or fewer employees. So you see that the FAFSA is a little bit more lenient in terms of looking at your financial position, and the CSS can be a little more strict, dig a little bit deeper into your financial position and maybe potentially reduce your aid. But technically your aid could be higher or lower in terms of what the CSS determines what your contribution is in determining your institutional aid. But regardless of what happens with the CSS and what the CSS determines your aid is, or your eligibility is to be able to pay, your wherewithal to pay, ultimately that's not going to affect any of the federal aid from the FAFSA, because the FAFSA and the federal government is going to determine your eligibility for Pell Grants, for SEOG grants, and other federal aid.
All right. So I know that was a mouthful, but long story short, if you are required to submit additional information to a private college or university, understand that they are going to be asking for more information than the FAFSA application. So they're going to be asking for your income if you worked over the summer. They're going to be asking for any equity that your family may have in their home. They are really going to start to dig into the finances of your household more so than the FAFSA application. I say that to say you want to make sure that you are prepared, okay? And then once again, that you keep records. You keep copies of all of the information that you are sending to the college and university. All right, so let's talk about FAFSA. I did not want to miss out on FAFSA. FAFSA, once again, is the application that you will use in order to get state funding if you are going to a college within the state of Pennsylvania. The reason why I love to talk about FAFSA, which stands for the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, is because FAFSA provides a lot of grant money for you to go to college. What is grant? A grant is money that you do not have to pay back. One of my favorite types of monies to go to college. So you definitely want to make sure that you fill out this FAFSA application after you finish filling out the FAFSA application, immediately after, okay? In order for you to access this application, you can go to FAFSA.org. And the great thing is that once you're finished with the FAFSA application, FAFSA will actually take you right to FAFSA. They have a page that will direct you to FAFSA for you to fill out that application. I wanted to put a special note too, that it's not going to take as much time to fill out the FAFSA application as the FAFSA application, but it will also increase your chance of receiving additional funds up to $5,000. So you don't want to miss out on that. Once again, it's best for you to complete the FAFSA application right after you fill out the FAFSA form. Okay. So let's talk about some terminology that you may need that you will need when you are filling out the FAFSA application, FEA, and also when you are reviewing your student aid report. I want you to be very well versed in some of the terminology that may come up. Okay. So we're going to review some financial aid terminology, and then also we're going to talk about what happens once you get the student aid report. We're going to talk about your family expected family contribution and what that means. And we'll also talk about how to determine what type of aid you want to accept and not accept, totally up to you. And how to make sure that you are prepared for any type of financial gap you may have when it comes to going to college. All right, so let's get into some financial aid terminology. You are going to come out of this workshop a financial aid expert just like me, based off of some of these definitions that you may need to know. So we talked about the FSA ID. The FSA ID is used for students and guardians to fill out the free application for federal student aid. You and your guardian will need your social security number and your own mobile phone number to create this FSA ID. That's all you will need. Social security number and your own mobile number. All right. EFC, expected family contribution. I know you've heard this a few times during this presentation, and I wanted to make sure you understood what it is. This is how much your family can afford to pay for your education for the next year. Your EFC is based off of the information that you provided on your FAFSA application. Your EFC determines your eligibility for financial aid. Okay, so make sure, like we talked about, you want to make sure that you are putting as accurate as information as possible. This is how they determine how much your family can afford to pay for your education. SAR, Student Aid Report. This contains the information you provided on the FAFSA application, as well as your EFC, your expected family contribution. All right. Binding legal obligation. It's a responsibility enforced by law. For example, parents have a binding legal obligation to send their children to school. In the world of financial aid, which we're talking about today, signing a promise to pay back your student loans is a binding legal obligation. That's why it's so important for you to make sure that you understand your student aid report. Okay, let's talk about dependent versus independent. We talked a little bit about that a couple slides back, but I wanted to review this terminology because you're going to have to know it. So dependent it means that you depend on your parents' income. Okay, this must be considered, your parents' income must be considered for determining your financial need. If you are independent, that means that your parents' income is not considered in determining your financial need. Your parents do not support you. Selective service, we talked about this in the very beginning of the presentation. It's a government agency that keeps a list of men of eligible age, so that was 18 to 25, to be drafted into the military service in case of a war. All right. Verification, process by which something is proven to be true. All right, so let's go into one of my favorite grants, which is the Pell Grant. And this is something that you are eligible to receive once you fill out the FAFSA application and the PHEAA application. So this is a grant that is awarded only to undergraduate students who display exceptional financial need and have not earned their bachelor's, graduate, or professional degree. Okay, like I'll say it again, you got to make sure you fill out that FAFSA application for you to qualify for this Pell Grant money. Subsidized loan. What is subsidized? What does that mean? Oh my goodness. Subsidized loans are loans for undergraduate students with financial need. They do not, I'm going to repeat this, they do not incur interest, okay, while you are in school at least half time or during a deferment period. One of my favorite types of loans, if you have to take out a loan for college, is subsidized, because you do not have to pay interest on that loan like we talked about. Okay, so Chris, I'm gonna throw you into the mix. If you do not have to pay interest for a subsidized loan, what do you think happens with an unsubsidized loan?
Aisha, I think with the unsubsidized loans, that means you have to pay interest. It's going to accrue interest while you're in school, which means by the time you get out of school, you're already going to owe more money than you borrowed.
Absolutely, that is it, Chris. So unsubsidized loan, you are going to owe more money, period. You're going to owe more money because you're going to have to pay not only that principal for the loan, right? But you're also going to have to pay that interest that has accumulated over time. So if I had to take out a loan, I would take out a subsidized loan over an unsubsidized loan. All right. And then also we have work study. Work study is a form of financial aid. Some colleges give you work study. So what does that mean? That means that students have the ability to earn money to pay for school through a part-time or sometimes off-campus experience. So you can either have work on your campus and get paid, or you can go to the Free Library of Philadelphia. So they have a work study program and get paid, which is pretty awesome.
That's what I was going to say. We do have some work study students that work with us.
Yeah, so they get that experience off campus doing what they want to do, which is pretty awesome. All right, so we're going to watch a quick video on the student aid report, and then we're going to go into a fun exercise to break down what a student aid report looks like and answer some questions that I want you to think about when you get your student aid report, so that you're able to make an educated decision on what type of aid you will accept and not accept from the federal government. So let's see.
So, you filled out the FAFSA. Now what? The information you submitted will be processed by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, and the colleges or career schools you listed will be notified so they can begin their process of awarding aid. The great thing about filling out the FAFSA online is that you can check its processing status immediately. This comes in handy when you're thinking, I wonder if it went through. Within a few days of filling out the FAFSA, you'll get your Student Aid Report, or SAR. You'll hear that abbreviation again, so just remember, your SAR is your Student Aid Report. Basically, it summarizes all of the information you submitted on the FAFSA. You can access your SAR online at FAFSA.gov using your FSA ID, which is your username and password. Check your SAR for any mistakes. Then make corrections if you need to, but only if you estimated your tax information or provided incorrect information the day you filled out the FAFSA. On your SAR, you'll see reference to your EFC, or expected family contribution. This number is used to determine your eligibility for federal student aid. It doesn't mean you actually have to contribute that amount. The financial aid office at each college or career school you list on your FAFSA will receive your information. Each office will then use your FAFSA information to determine how much aid you can get at that school. It's possible that your college or career school may require you to verify the information you submitted on your FAFSA. If that happens, your school will tell you what you need to do. Once you're accepted into a college or career school, you'll get an award letter from the school's financial aid office that explains the aid being offered to you. We'd recommend comparing award letters from multiple schools. That way you can make the best decision for your situation. If you have any questions about your financial aid offer, contact the school's financial aid office. If your aid offer includes a federal loan,
Oops, sorry guys.
and you're a first-time borrower, there are a few more steps before you get your loan. You'll need to complete entrance counseling and sign the Master Promissory Note, or MPN, which is your agreement to pay back the loan. Your school will provide you with the necessary information. So how do you get your money? Well, usually your grants and loans will be applied to tuition, fees, and other charges on your student account first. Then any leftover money is paid to you. Work-study funds are earned throughout the term. Remember, filling out the FAFSA is not a one-time thing. You must complete it every year you attend school. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
All right, thank you for watching that video. So as explained in the video, your college or university is going to get that information from that you filled out, right? From your FAFSA application, from FEA, and if they require additional information on that CSS profile. Once you get that filled out, your college is going to
The
give
free
you
application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, is
report.
the application for grants.
There we go. He wanted to repeat after me. So your school is going to give you a report back that says, hey, this is the type of aid that you will receive to go to our college or universities. As the video talked about, you want to make sure that you are comparing your student aid reports from each college or university. This is very important because some schools will give you better assistance than other schools, right? And that may be the deal breaker for whether or not you are going to go to that college or university. So you want to make sure that you are reviewing these student aid reports as accurately as possible, that you're using the terminology that we talked about, right, to be able to read these student aid reports, and that you're able to process the numbers that come with the student aid reports. And we're going to do a quick exercise to help you become financially savvy when it comes to you reviewing your student aid report. All right, so let's talk about calculating your financial need. The financial aid office or staff at your college or university starts by deciding upon the cost of attendance, your cost of attendance at the school. So what does that mean? Your cost of attendance at that school is your tuition, your room and board, your transportation, your books. How much is it going to cost for you to go to that school? Then they consider your expected family contribution. So their expected family contribution is based off of the financial information that you provided on the FAFSA and your FEA, and maybe even your CSS profile. They subtract your EFC, your expected family contribution, from your COA, your cost of attendance, to determine the amount of financial aid you will need, or therefore how much need-based aid you can get. So this is the equation in a nutshell. Your cost of attendance, so how much it costs for you to go to that college or university, right? Minus your expected family contribution, what you reported on your financial aid, equals your financial need, how much you will need to go to that college or university. All right, so let's dive into a fun financial aid award activity so that we can break down how to review yours when you receive it from your college or university. So in this example, we have our cost of attendance and we have our EFC. So let's break that down. So as you can see in this example, this person's cost of attendance, meaning how much is it going to cost to go to college? They have tuition that costs $7,334. They have health and fees, which is just another fee for school, $176. They have book and supply fees, $1,015. Room and board, $5,204. Personal, $2,600. and transportation, $910. All of this added together, their cost of attendance to attend this particular school is $17,239. Let's talk about the expected family contribution. So this is based off of what this student and their guardians reported on their application, their financial aid applications. So it says from the family's resources and parents' contribution, their earnings, they can contribute $2,500. They have assets. Their assets are $112, and the student can contribute $500. All of this added together, and like I said, this comes from the FAFSA form, from FAFSA, and from your CSS if they ask for it. $3,112. All right, so we looked at our cost of attendance, and we also looked at our expected family contribution, right? So let's ask some questions and get you involved in how you can review your student aid report. So what was your total cost of attendance to go to that university?
All right, so I'm the example student. My total cost was $17,239.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. How is your cost of attendance determined?
So that's by adding up all of the different things. So not just your tuition, but fees, your room and board, books, which, you know, can get pretty pricey.
Yes.
Transportation was another factor, which I thought was interesting.
Yes.
So all those things add up.
It all adds up. That's exactly it. That's how they determine your cost of attendance. What is your expected family contribution?
Okay, so in this example, my expected family contribution would be $3,112.
Very good. Yeah, that is it. That includes information from your parents, tax information, as well as information that you may provide as well. How is your EFC determined?
Okay, so this one I feel like is a little bit more complicated, but it's based off of, you know, parents' income. I think, do they take some of their assets into account as well? And then my, me as the student, any financial contribution that I could potentially make as well.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And it's makes some colleges may actually go more in depth with the CSS profile, and some may not. So some may take your financial information from FAFSA and from FAFSA, and then some may take it from FAFSA, FAFSA, and your CSS profile. On your own point, Chris, your own point. So let's talk about, let's look at this. So this is the student aid report, an award that your college said, hey, we looked at everything. This is how much money we want to give you for the year for you to go to college, to this particular college. What is your total financial aid? What is your total financial aid in order to go to this college for the year?
Okay, so this is the math part. So this would be,
yes.
So this would be the cost of attendance minus the expected family contribution, right?
So we're going to take that away. So this is just basically how much money is this college giving you to go to school? So let's look at that. So you have your awarded financial aid. You have a Pell Grant. You have a direct loan. You have two direct loans, subsidized and unsubsidized.
Okay, I see. I was thinking about the financial need, which we talked about a little earlier.
Yeah,
okay,
no
so
worries.
So this would be, would that be the Pell Grant plus the direct loan, subsidized and unsubsidized?
Yep. You got it. So how much financial aid this college is giving you, that includes the grant, that includes the loan, Yes, you got it. Both
All right.
subsidized and unsubsidized.
So I'm doing my calculator here because I feel like they're trying to trick me here a little bit with the total direct loans. So I added $6,876 plus $1,250 for the Pell Grant for a total of $8,126. Is that correct?
You got it. Ding, ding, ding,
Okay.
ding, ding. Yes, $8,126. You got it. So
Okay, we got there.
all of the financial aid on your student aid report. Now, this is the question. This is a real life question. This is something that you're going to have to consider when you get your student aid report. What are you going to accept and what are you not going to accept? Because you do not have to accept all of the aid that is on your financial award letter. You can decline some of this aid, but of course, you just want to make sure if you do decline, it's for a reason, right? And you have a backup plan. So Chris, we can kind of go back and forth. What do you think you would accept and you would decline on this award letter? And I'll answer the question as well.
Well, 1,000% I'm taking the Pell Grant because that is Aisha Alexander trademark free college money, right?
Yes.
So I'm definitely accepting the Pell Grant. Now the loans are interesting because like you said, we have to have a backup plan. So I would probably, I mean, it depends on what my backup plan is. Do I want to take both the loans, or maybe I don't know, maybe I have somebody who's willing to give me money for no reason. Definitely the subsidized loan is the one that doesn't accrue interest while I'm in school. So that will probably be the first loan that I would accept.
Mm-hmm.
And then the unsubsidized, yeah, I mean, I know I'm gonna have to pay interest on that a lot more than I would on my subsidized loan. So that might be, if I had a backup plan,
Yes.
you know, then I might take that money first, depending on the circumstances. But
Chris, you answered it exactly the way that I would have answered it. I definitely am taking that grant money because I do not have to pay it back. So a big check for accept. I would take the subsidized loan if I needed it because there's no interest that occurs on it. So big check for accept. The unsubsidized loan, it's depends on your backup plan. So this is the importance of scholarships, and I won't go into it for this particular workshop because we have a whole other workshop that's dedicated just to scholarships. If you had scholarship money, you would not have to take out the unsubsidized loan, and there may be a possibility that you would not have to take out the subsidized loan. Okay, but I say for this example, I didn't have scholarship money. Okay, I would take out the unsubsidized loan, but, and this is a little trick I'll talk more about in my scholarship workshop, you can actually pay on the interest and pay on your unsubsidized loan while you are in school, okay? You can take some of that work study money, or if you have a part-time job, hopefully while you're in school, you can take some of that money to actually start paying down that interest on your unsubsidized loan. That's a little trick. So it won't hit you as hard at the end of your academic career. Okay, so I say for this example, I'm gonna accept everything. I have my plan together. I'm going to accept everything. Do you need additional financial aid? This is an important question. Do you think we need additional financial aid? So
gosh, the math, so many math.
Yeah, so I put the numbers down because I know that was in a few slides before. So remember, our cost of attendance was $17,239, right? Then you have your expected family contribution, which is $3,112. Based off of that, those numbers, and the financial aid that your college is giving to you, do you think you're going to need additional aid, or do you think you're going to be good?
I still need money.
Woo!
I did the math. I think I still need $6,000.
Yes, that's it.
So I take it back. I'm definitely taking out my unsubsidized loan as well.
That's it. That is it. That's so funny. That's it. That's what you want to do. You got to do your math. because I've dealt with students that have been in situations where they think they're good. Oh, this is perfect. I have this financial aid award letter that's going to cover me. And then they look and they have a $5,000 gap. And they're like, where did this gap come from? You have to do your math and you have to understand what's in front of you. So from this math that we did from the COA, right? So the cost of attendance, which was a $17,239, you minus your expected family contribution, 3,112, minus that aid, that $8,127, you still need $6,000. So where is this $6,000 going to come from? It could come in a variety of forms. I'm hoping that you are going to be proactive and you're going to apply for scholarships, and that $6,000 is going to come from a scholarship. But it can also come from other loans. It can also come from a Parent Plus loan, which means that your parent is taking out money for you to go to college. So there's various ways for you to get this $6,000, which we'll talk about in our scholarship workshop. Okay. So now you should feel confident. You have your terminology, right? We talked about subsidized, unsubsidized. We talked about expected family contribution, cost of attendance. We talked about selective services, dependent, independent. So you should feel like you're able to read your student aid report confidently and plug those numbers. Cost of attendance minus expected family contribution minus how much aid your school gives you equals your unmet need. Hopefully your unmet need will be a 0 or close to it, hopefully. Some takeaways for you to be able to read your student aid report. You want to make sure that you look at your award letters carefully. Letters from different schools will probably have different figures and different costs. So you want to make sure that you are comparing your financial aid award letters to see who is giving you the best deal for you to attend their college. You also want to compare loan offers. Okay, so we talked about it. Unsubsidized loan versus unsubsidized loans. Okay, you might want to look at hopefully taking out an unsubsidized loan that has a lower cost point than a subsidized loan, because of course your interest is occurring on an unsubsidized loan. So hopefully that unsubsidized loan is as low as possible. Okay. You want to compare affordability over time. That's very important. So like I said, I'm all about making sure that you financially understand what you're getting into and that you are able to prepare for college. That means that you are looking at how much is this college going to cost freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. Are my college costs increasing or are they staying the same? That can determine whether or not you decide to go to a college, right? Or how much money, scholarship money, and I bring it to the table. I may not have brought a lot of scholarship money to the table my freshman year, but guess what? My sophomore year, I'm gonna really work hard and I'm gonna make sure that I bring more scholarship money into the financial aid game my sophomore year. So that affects your financial aid award letter as well. So you want to make sure you are planning ahead. Okay. Don't accept an offer just because it has the lowest unmet need. That's very important. You may save more by accepting the offer with a higher unmet need. If your financial aid package includes scholarships, grants, and work study, things that you do not have to pay back, okay? Do the math. Do the math. All right. And make sure that you can compare terms as well. How does your school determine the cost of attendance? How do they include direct cost as well as indirect cost? How do they handle outside scholarships? These are all things that you should consider when accepting or not accepting a financial aid award letter. Okay, so let's talk about the deadlines for applying for FAFSA and FAFSA. I wanted to make sure I went over that before we conclude our workshop today. So the deadline for FAFSA, like we talked about, it opens up October the 1st. So you want to make sure that you first come, first serve, that you're on it, that you're applying in October. June the 30th is when most of the applications must be submitted by midnight Central Time. But of course, we're not going to wait around until June the 30th. We're not doing that. We're going to make sure that we have this application in October. All right. By September the 10th, corrections and updates must be submitted by midnight Central Time. Let's talk about deadlines for FAFSA. So remember, you want to apply for FAFSA right after you apply for FAFSA. So boom, you don't even have to think about it. May 1st is a deadline if you plan on enrolling in a degree program or a college transferable program. August the 1st is the deadline if you plan to enroll in a community college or a trade school. All right, talk about the CSS deadline. CSS deadline, it opens up October the 1st, just like the FAFSA application. Okay. But each school has its deadline in regards to when they will ultimately take that application. For more information about that, you want to make sure you go to cssprofile.collegeboard.org. Your activity. So I wanted to leave you with some takeaways. Takeaway activity is for you to look up how to sign up for your FSA ID. Once again, your FSA ID is an electronic signature used to sign the free application for federal student aid. What will you need and what will your parent need to sign this application? You will need, and so we'll go over that next slide, but to talk about why you need this to fill out the application to say, hey, everything on my application is verified and true. You access your personal records through this FSA ID. And it also, when you take out those loans, you sign for your loans using your FSA ID. So it's very important for you to have one. So what do you need to have one, and what does your parent need to have one? You need your social security number, and you need your own mobile phone number and or email address. Okay. So this is the website that you would go to in order for you to fill out and create your FSA ID. So that is your homework to do for this workshop, is get your FSA ID together, because you will definitely need that. Some more financial aid resources for you to take away. Hopefully go into it and do some more research on your own. You have FAFSA.ed.gov, which is where you will find the FAFSA application. You have PHEAA.org, which is where you will find the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. And then, of course, you have the CSS profile, which is cssprofile.collegeboard.org. All right. So to conclude our workshop, I want to talk about another workshop we're going to have coming up November the 6th. It is going to be a workshop that talks about COVID-19 and give you updates on what to expect as a student going into college with some COVID-19, with us living in this COVID-19 time. What does that mean to you? Okay, I want to talk about that so that you are able to best prepare as a student. That is going to be November the 6th from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And of course, if you do want to register for that, you want to go to teencenter@freelibrary.org. And then also, if you have some questions for me that I may not have answered during this presentation workshop, please feel free. You can email me at info@thealexanderadvantage.com. I also have a YouTube channel that you can follow, which this workshop will be uploaded on there, as well as on the Field Teen Center's website, YouTube website. So you definitely want to check that out. I have Instagram as well as Facebook and Twitter, so definitely follow. I always give very important college prep information to make sure that you are ahead of the game. All right, guys, so congratulate yourself for watching this video. Congratulate yourself for wanting to take control of your financial future when it comes to your college education. We are proud of you. The Free Library Field Team Center is proud of you. The Alexander Advantage is proud of you. And we look forward to seeing you on our next video, our next workshop.
Thank you so much, Aisha.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, have a good one.
Have a great day.